We're here in Antwerp with Fernando from Moonspell. Thank you for having us. Third evening from the Ultima Ratio Fest Tour, together with Insomnium, Bornagar, Wolfhard, and Hinayana.
Hinayana.
Yeah.
I learned how to spell that.
Yeah.
All right.
It's perhaps a bit early after only 2 nights, but how has it been so far?
Well, surprisingly good. You know, when you are back at home, you hear all the bad news. It's a stream of bad news since you wake up until you go to bed. It's the pre-sales, it's the competition, it's the transportation, it's the fuel. But if we do not press on or double down our efforts to be on the road, with all these problems I've quoted, I think this would be another lost year. So we're very happy first because of the package. It's a dream come true to play with bands that we like all their music. I didn't know Hinayana at first, but they are great too. They came from Texas. It's the first tour ever, and it's cool to welcome them in Europe. And all the bands put an incredible show. We are not like these 5 bands. They're trying really hard. They are all struggling bands. Nobody here is like the headliner or whatever. That's just a question of timetable. So I'm very happy. We did Frankfurt. It was quite of a slower night, but yesterday in Leipzig was amazing. And today I think Antwerp and Belgium never disappoints.
Yeah.
They've been with us since 30 years. So.
Yeah. It's kind of being promoted as a co-headliner tour with you guys and Insomnium. At first it was scheduled with My Dying Bride.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, we love Insomnium, but we were looking forward to tour also with My Dying Bride, because we've been chasing them for a tour for many years, but it didn't happen. They're having some issues that they don't really want to reveal, or I mean, it's their personal things, I think, but we keep our doors open when My Dying Bride finally wants to join touring with Moonspell, because it's a match made in hell, I think.
Yeah, we certainly hope it's going to work out. This tour, you will play 9 countries, 18 locations, something like that?
Yeah. Normally we play longer tours, but as it is a festival tour, and it was rescheduled from already for 2 years back, we decided that we take it as we go. We toured Europe, we toured UK with Paradise Lost at the beginning of the year, supporting them. It was amazing. Then we had some festivals, then we have this mini European tour for our standards. I mean, last tour we did when we met in 2019, we were going to make a tour with 53 dates. So, and then we're going to Israel and Greece, and then we end up this part of the tour this year in December in the UK, again as headliners. And next up we'll be, touring Latin America, the US. We had to postpone that tour for 2023. So that's lots of touring ahead still, but this one is a short and sweet tour.
Yesterday, the 29th of September, you released From Down Below, live 80 meters deep, complete live registration from your latest album, Hermitage. Can you tell us a bit more? It's being described as being filmed or recorded in one of the 7 wonders of Portugal?
Yes. I mean, I didn't pick up the wonders, but the tourism of Portugal. And it's a natural cave that was discovered after the Second World War. It's beautiful, it's enchanting with all the geological nature, architecture, the sound, the light, the way it's lit. So I went there with my kids and my niece to pay a visit to the caves during the pandemic. Kids needed to be entertained, so I said, well, let's leave the world behind and let's go below Earth to see if the atmosphere is better. And I have been there as a kid too. And I connected the dots and said, well, we can definitely make a really cool thing here, really original, alternative idea to all the shows. Then it was born out of necessity. Bands were stopped, like everybody knows, for more than 2 years, some of the bands. And we needed also to record something, to get the support from the fans, to still be in their radar. Also for the label to have a new record of Moonspell they could help us with. So many bands did live albums like Paradise Lost, Behemoth, Sepultura, etc. So that was our version of making a release, but we wanted to do it the Moonspell way, something totally surprising for people. So yeah, we hired the caves, took like around 60 fans there. It was still, they still had masks because we were still living under confinement in Portugal. It was a silent event, that's why they all have the headphones. And it turned out to be like a crazy idea that worked really well. People are very intrigued about what the hell is a heavy metal band playing in a cave, you know. But I'm a sucker for these ideas since I saw Shining playing on a cliff, Metallica in Antarctica, Mirkur in some place, bands in churches. I think we have to keep our ideas fresh if we want to survive in the scene.
And did it present you with some kind of technical difficulties, like the location is, for example, if you play a festival, you can get your stuff close by with trucks, etc. Was it easy to get your gear and into the cave? And
yeah, we kind of did a lot of technical visits there. I spent a lot of time down the earth, and it was like we played in a lower plateau, so it's really in the depth of the cave, and we tried to make it really simple because it was a smaller place, and the secret was to do it with taste. So yeah, but there was a lot of problems. I mean, there was problems obviously with the ongoing pandemics, with the authorizations, with the sound, with the electricity. There was one of the main problems. We had to hire 2 electricians that really knew every like light spot and every electrical cable that runs through the cave. We also had to the show included like a guided visit to the cave, so people came from the main entrance, but then they had to take the lift, and the lift took like 2 or 3 minutes to go upstairs, or a little bit. Or there were some people that actually felt a little bit bad because of the claustrophobic feel. As a singer, it was difficult to breathe as well, but I think this was done also in the spirit of those big adventures. When I was a kid, I read a lot of Jules Verne's book, like Voyage to the Center of the Earth, and stuff like that. And it's cool to combine this passion I have for books, adventure books, and also to do something with the band. So this is the result.
But on an acoustics level, it didn't present you with too much difficulties. The sound with the rocks or whatever that it echoes or...
Actually, it added to it. Obviously, we were all linears, and the fans had a special mix made by our sound guy, so they had a really good sound going on. But when we started the mix, we used a lot of the natural reverb. We thought it was going to be harder, but we just mic'd it, you know, in the best way possible. We worked also with people that, you know how to do sound, not only for bands, but in different places. And I think the result was really cool.
Yeah, you explained the reasoning why behind the idea to do the album, but would you agree that this new release, to a certain degree, is perhaps riskier for the band because it's concentrated on one album? And if, for example, you have a fan who likes the previous album less, that he perhaps won't buy it. If you look at your previous live album, Lisboa Under the Spell, it includes all the hits as well. And if you look at the new live album, it's concentrated on one album, and that's perhaps already more difficult to convince fans. Perhaps
it's going well because it's it's an alternative idea, and it's a bit of a crazy idea. So the pre-sales are very good for a live album. And people also, when they buy the DVD or the Blu-ray, they feel it's more of a musical film than really just, like we did with Lisboa Under the Spell. And people know that we don't like to repeat ourselves. When we make one idea, like Lisboa Under the Spell was a big celebration, let's call it this way, of the band legacy before we did 1755. So we played Wolfheart, The Religious and Extinct. And nowadays things have changed, all the world has changed, the perspective of music has changed. So we're celebrating 30 years in what might seem a more riskier idea, but we knew perfectly when we started the anniversary tour for 2022 that we'll have to adapt. And one of the main goals behind From Down Below was really to play the full Hermitage set, because it's not getting so many chances as other albums, because it was brought to life during the pandemic, so there was not a real tour, and there will never be a tour to promote it. So I think, I receive the pieces, and then I have to set up the own puzzle. And with Moonspell it's a little bit like this all the time. I mean, our first two albums with Art and Religious were received, people say that they were like running to the record stores, but I know perfectly it wasn't like that. When Wolf Art was out, we had some cool reviews, and then only after people saw us live, etc., it started to be an album that sold a lot, and nowadays it's a classic. So I don't waste my brain energy with thinking how should it be. For us, we all thinking a little bit, we love our legacy, we honor our legacy, but we always think a little bit ahead. That's the way of keeping it.
And outside of the box.
Yeah, I mean, these terms nowadays are very connected with marketing, etc. And Moonspell is still an old school band. Of course, we have all the social networking, etc. But for me, the best networking is with the fans live, and also to present them alternative stuff. Because if you think about it rationally, the fans that like the old material is there, and we play it every night, so they can always enjoy it. We've never been a band that doesn't play from Wolf Art or Religious. Actually, we played a lot because the show is a celebration. So we are not too concerned, because our career is made of these dynamics. I mean, when we released the scene in '98, everybody's like, "Oh, Moonspell sold out," and now they beg of us to play a scene song. So the human mind, we never know what we want. And when you are in the band, you have to take decisions that represent yourself and hopefully hope for the best with the audience.
What were the main pandemic consequences for Moonspell? Do some of the band members have like day jobs to keep yourself busy and to keep your bills paid? Did you write more new material? Were you able to rehearse?
Well, we were subject to the conditions that every other citizen was. We didn't know. Sometimes it was a big mess, a big confusion in Portugal and elsewhere. And planning during the pandemic was really hard, because a lot of times our plans were just frustrated by rising numbers or by someone in the health authority that woke up in the wrong side of the bed and decided something that was not even a scientific thing. So when the pandemic started, we were coming from a very big tour. So before the pandemics, one of our members got out of the band, Mike, and then the pandemic came, and at that moment between let's say end of December and February, there was a time where I didn't know if we would go on with Moonspell. I didn't feel like going on stage. I didn't feel like writing new material. The band had a very hard tour. 30 years were coming, and I thought, well, we already did much more and achieved much more than we ever thought. But then, the pandemic came. I didn't look at it as a break from the touring cycle. Like many musicians said online, I'm glad because then I can get time with my family. I think that's very insensitive, because the pandemic was a calamity. People died, our rights were revoked on a daily basis. Our jobs were taken. So the first thing I did was to stay at home thinking about all of this and thinking about how music would fit during and after the pandemic. And then I started having ideas like for the new album, Hermitage, and also for the recording during the pandemics, also for the aforementioned DVD. I also had time to work more on the management of the band, so I could go to all the Author Society and say, hey, please give us our money, pay our rights, don't fail us on that like you normally do, delaying the payments. This is not, we don't have any other source of income. We're all professional musicians. So I kind of guided the band together with my colleagues to a safe path. And then in Portugal, the sooner we could make shows, streaming, etc., we did it. With all the masks and people sitting down listening to metal. I hated it, but in the middle of all that hate, there was the love of the fans that wanted to see us in that condition. So we planned a lot, and we stuck together and waiting for what would become. But there were very hard times for everybody and for the bands in particular, but we wouldn't give up without fighting. And actually the pandemics and the fact of they were not about me, of course, my little small problems, but it made me realize that we do have something to do still with Moonspell and me as a singer, which is to entertain people and to take their minds off the playing, now the war, the crisis. You know, when people come to our show for 1 hour, they will be totally forgetting about this. It's a world of fantasy, and I think that's with crazy ideas, with old songs, with Alma Mater or Hermit Saints. I think it's all about how we can entertain people now, and that's my main goal right now with everything that Moonspell does.
Makes sense. How many songs from Hermitage do you play on this Ultima Ratio Fest tour? You played 2 songs in Frankfurt?
Yeah, we're going to play 2 songs.
Yeah, for the entire tour?
Yeah, it's a co-headline, as you say, so there's a lot of bands.
Apoptegmata and The Greater Good.
The Greater Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of share our time on stage with Insomnia. They played for 60 minutes. Some people are frustrated. Yesterday they were waiting 5 minutes for Moonspell to come back on stage. But like I said, these are the rules right now, and we need to take it step by step. And for sure, that sooner or later we'll come with our own headliner tour that we can play more time. We would love to play more time, more songs. Obviously, we have 13 albums, but this time around we focus on the energy and we give a little bit of Hermitage to people as well.
What are, in your opinion, the main differences between Hermitage and the previous Moonspell albums? I heard it mentioned a couple of times that the last one has even kind of a Pink Floyd vibe at times.
It does. I mean, we soak. We do suck. Don't edit it because that's the only piece of truth I said on the interview. We soak music from everywhere, you know, and we were very much into the 70s stuff for a long time, but we never had the chance of putting it in our music. And the last album we have done on this register was Extinct. That was more of a gothic metal album. Then we did 1755, which was a much more aggressive album, very theatrical, about the earthquake in Lisbon and sung in Portuguese. And when I have these dynamics about the band, when it's done, it's done. We play it, we love it, but for me it's always the moving on. So Hermitage was a bit of a move on to more melodic, more progressive, more atmospheric as well. It divided people in a way, but I think this is already a way that people appreciate Moonspell. And even if I always told in interviews, just take time because you have time with the record. Just listen to it on vinyl, like old school in your bedroom. You know, just pop up some wine, just like people used to listen to music back in the day. And curiously enough, we had probably the most amazing reviews ever since, I don't know, many years. And it was an album that worked really well, and I'm sorry we cannot play it more live because it really functions really well. I mean, and people can see that from down below. Bands, when the goal of any band would be to write an album, to play it for 1 year, and then to record it. But the music business is not constructed like this, because when we get to know the songs, when we get to have other, you know, mannerisms live, they sound so much better, so much together. The studio process is always a bit difficult to let loose for the band, and every band can tell you that. And I think, the atmosphere was really totally different from 1755. 1755 is more apocalyptic. This one was a little more about taking a step back and being in the dark of the room.
Have you at times considered postponing the release of the album, knowing that you would not be fully able to support the album, playing live and doing promotion?
Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of promotion because it was everything remote, but we didn't want to. The more you change the plans, the worse the consequence will be in a short, medium term. Yeah. That's why we kept the tours going, even postponed. That's why we kept the album going, because also, for instance, like the pre-sale of Hermitage was much stronger than probably the Extinct album that people love. And why? People were at home. So it was also our way to get to them. The post office was fortunately working, So not only the music, but it was also the way of being with our fans through our music. So that's why we were keen in maintaining as much as we could the plans in a time that I must confess was the hardest time of our lives to plan. You couldn't plan anything. You couldn't plan going to have dinner, let alone an album tour. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. On the 31st of October and November 1st, you will play 2 shows for the 30th anniversary of the band. One in Porto, one in Lisboa. Can you tell us a bit more about those shows already?
Those are going to be the celebration shows, and those are going to travel through all the moments of Moonspell. So we have an online voting so that people can pick from every album, and then the most voted will be adapted in a set list. And we have a lot of votes that I could figure out, like Vampire, Alma Mater, Full Moon Madness, but we also have a lot of songs that I never thought people would want to bring this back to life. So it's going to be moments in time. So the stage is going to change a lot of times with different guests, with different moods. The mood of the black metal, the mood of the wolf art, the gothic mood of the religious.
Is it your aim to play, for example, first the 3 Wolfheart albums and then stuff from Syndicado?
No, we're going to play a more diverse set, but with hopefully with at least 1 or 2 songs from every album, including like the Under the Moonspell that we recorded under Sunday Night. And also we have Samael opening, and they're going to play Ceremony of Opposites in Porto and Passage in Lisbon. So it's going to be also, those shows are really a tribute to the legacy of Moonspell, and that's why we invited Samael over, because they are an influence to us. So we toured together back then. So it's going to be a really, really cool thing to attend, because we're not going to record it on DVD. We're spending all the money.
You already asked my you already answered some of my questions. I was going to ask, how do you decide on a set list for a show like that when you have 10 albums out? So you already answered.
We let the fans have that.
Do you already know what songs you will play?
Not yet, but
do you already know more or less how many songs or how long you will play? Is it like a 2-hour set?
2-hour set. Yeah.
So about between 15 and 20 songs, something like that? More?
Because our songs, we don't have very long songs. Just a couple of songs are long, like Full Moon Madness or Everything Invaded. So, I have all the show in my head. It's still, we're still picking up the pieces. But I think, to answer also to your question, I think that it's always hard to pick up a set list. So you will not please to everyone. So you gotta pick up a set list that has 2 main ingredients: energy and visuality. And that's exactly what we want to do in the 30 years anniversary, so that people create a new memory of Moonspell with the old stuff or older stuff.
I'm surprised, because I was going to ask you, are there plans to record and release one of these 30 years of Moonspell shows in any form? That might be something that the fans really want to see.
Yeah, I know, but the trick is that
it's like really the best of Moonspell considered by the fans.
So they have to come there if they can. It's always a great time to visit Portugal. But the problem here is more practical. We are recording it. We are doing this at the Coliseums, and all these rooms now have brandings. So just to use their name or to set up there, it's something we can't afford.
Moonspell live at the Coca-Cola Arena or something like that?
Yeah. So that's something, unfortunately, we can't afford. Of course, we're going to record it, but probably not for a professional thing. But
a live stream or a stream on YouTube or whatever?
Maybe just after. We really want to pack the room like old school. Those are 3,000 arenas or coliseums. And so we want people to experience the thing in first hand. We had this. We did a Coliseum when we recorded the old stuff from the demos. We did it in 2007. It was sold out, and there's this mysticism about, because it was in 2007. People had mobiles, but there's almost nothing online, and we want to recreate this mystery. We don't want to be a bastards, but we can definitely, if people like it, we can definitely think about a tour with this repertoire. Why not?
What are some of your personal best and worst moments of these 30 years of Moonspell?
Well, the best moment is everything that happened. For me, it's a big surprise every day. We're coming from a small country, a very small and suburban little village. You know, lots of problems with heroin, with robbery, etc. So we made the band, and we went into metal also to avoid those problems. So we started off by having a fanzine back in '88, '89. And the plan was when we started to receive letters and we started to know bands like Paradise Lost, for instance, I don't know if it's 88, 89, or Samael or Sarcophago, or, you know, we said there's no band like this in Portugal. So that's why we formed Morbid Goth and then Moonspell. So for me, the best moment, it's definitely to be able to still, you know, have enough people that trust our music and want to see us live and that buy our stuff. That's an overwhelming feeling, because we always thought we were completely underdogs, that will never do anything, and that's a very Portuguese feeling to start with. I think the worst moments are always when someone leaves the band. You know, we couldn't keep the lineup from the beginning. We had problems, we had, you know, we were angry with each other, we had technical problems, and I think I love when bands can have the original lineup. There's fewer than but we still have a solid lineup since Wolfart, and then we have a new drummer, but then our bass player is together with us since Antidote 2003. So those were moments that I felt we all failed, you know, because we let our egos or we let our personal things and even Moonspell be bigger than the ties that we had. But it happens with marriages too. So sometimes you just fall out of love. But Moonspell has been a great adventure. It's been more than half of my life, and I don't take anything for granted. My expectations are more than fulfilled. So right now I just want to make stuff with quality and to entertain people with that same quality. And if possible, to take the band to a cave and release something that people never saw before.
I have a last question. You are now 48 years old. Can we expect 30 more years of Moonspell following in the footsteps of the Rolling Stones? Or?
I mean, if I had that kind of cash or fame, maybe, you know. But I don't have that kind of appeal, really. I think Moonspell is still relevant to me and to most people that listen to us. But I will have no problem when Moonspell comes to an end. I'll do something else. During the pandemic, I wrote my first novel too. I'm finishing my second one. Right now it's coming on the summer of 2023. So it was a good experience for me. And I think that those bands you quote, and we can quote Judas Priest or
Maiden,
have something
Kiss.
have something that we don't have, and it's not only cash; it's this legend status, you know. And Moonspell is a struggling band. We love what we do, but we never reached to the point where we could be eternal. So I think that 30 years is out of question. I will say between 5 and 10, because then I will be like old, really old. And I appreciate people that have this internal youth inside them, but that's not the case with me. I want to run the course and then disappear from the public eye and go hopefully to a little apartment on the beach with my books and my whiskey and just stay there.
Write novels, perhaps.
Write novels, listen to music all the time. But I'm not so, I love Moonspell, but I'm not so attached that it is a life or death situation. I think we have to be prepared that everything ends. And Moonspell will have an end. It's not today, it's not tomorrow, but it's not going to be more 30 years, that's for sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time.